Even in death, Ricky Chapman's controversial.
Yeah, the body of the one-time Bandido has been at the centre of a tug-of-war between his girlfriend Stacey Shop and his mum Suzanne Britt. We know quite a lot about Stacey because she's obviously the daughter of former Rebels boss Nick Martin. We don't know much about Suzanne because we rarely hear about Bikie's mums. We were afforded an insight into her relationship with their son courtesy of a legal fight over Ricky's funeral. Stacey applied to the coroner for the right to lay him to rest and she was awarded custody of the body. But Suzanne took the matter to the Supreme Court. She argued Stacey had broken up with Ricky and they were never really serious. Stacey argued they were serious and were at one stage expecting a baby together. I'm only here because Ricky told me what he wanted, otherwise I would be happy for him to go to his mum, she told the court. Suzanne's lawyer said Stacey and Ricky broke up in November, 5 months before he died. The lawyer said Stacey admitted that in December when she wrote a victim impact statement about her father's murder. She said her relationship with Chapman ended under the pressure of the fallout from the Motorplex shooting. And the judge believed Stacey.
So there'll be another bikie funeral in Perth sometime soon, you'd imagine.
Even then, that probably won't be the end of it though. There's still the argument about what happens to Ricky's estate. I have no idea how much Ricky Chapman had in the bank when he died. Contrary to what everyone thinks, most bikies die pretty broke. There are very few that make good money in that trade. Nick Martin went to God, the owner of a pretty big house in Lansdale. His one-time friend, David Pye, allegedly had enough money to pay G.I. Joe a couple of $100,000 in cash to kill Nick, and another couple of hundred to knock off Comanchero in exile, Ray Chili.
Allegedly.
Of course. But the cashed-up bikies are few and far between. The generals make the bank. The soldiers like Ricky generally don't have the fat stacks. You know all the TV footage you see of police raids on bikie kingpins? Notice it's never in City Beach or a mansion in Cottesloe. It's always in some fibro shitbox in Maddington or a 1980s special outside Rockingham. And when they get pulled over by the gang crime squad, very rarely driving the latest Audi, usually a clapped-out Fairlane from 1992.
Well, fancy cars could bring them heat from unexplained wealth, of course.
That's true, but most of them just don't have the wealth in the first place.
So why would there be a dispute over the estate?
He might not have had a lot of cash, but he did have a job. We know he did because he died working at Rio Tinto's Cape Lambert iron ore port. And if he had a job, he had a superannuation fund because it's compulsory. And most super accounts have an inbuilt life insurance policy. And even if you didn't have a big nest egg, the life insurance payout could be several $100,000.
This is a situation that so many families would find themselves in.
Absolutely. This is not limited to bikie families. Most people don't think about super and life insurance when someone dies. Stacey and Ricky's mum probably haven't thought about that either.
Yeah, so that could further complicate things.
Particularly if, like a lot of young people, Ricky never wrote a will. Not like Nick, he had his funeral plans well laid out before he was killed. He clearly knew the writing was on the wall, but Ricky was a live fast, die young kind of a guy. I doubt that conservative financial planning featured too high on his to-do list. Obviously didn't have a prepaid funeral because Stacey was crowdfunding that. Ricky died intestate, without a valid will. The helpful people at the Perth Probate Centre have a handy chart showing what happens when this occurs. The first question is, did the dead person leave a surviving de facto or husband or wife, a spouse? Supreme Court Justice Jeremy Curthoys has just ruled that while there was a period between November and December last year that she and Ricky had broken up, it did not mean their relationship completely ended.
So they were a de facto couple.
This is what the judge said. Mr. Chapman was excited when he found out they were pregnant and devastated when Ms. Shop miscarried, which indicated they did intend to create a family in a marriage-like relationship. So that would be a yes. Next question is, did the deceased have kids? They use the term leave surviving issue for some reason. It just means were there descendants. The answer in Ricky's case is no. Was there a surviving parent? Yes. Was there a surviving sibling? We know he had a brother, that came out in court, so yes. And now we're at the pointy end of the chart. If you die with a living de facto, a living parent and no kids, as Ricky did, your spouse gets all your household possessions, which are called chattels in legal speak, plus the first $705,000 of your financial assets, which would include life insurance and superannuation, plus 1/2 of whatever is left over. the parent, that's Suzanne, is entitled to the next $56,000 and one half of whatever's left after that, and his brother gets the rest.
Complicated. Unlikely Ricky Chapman would have had 700,000.
No. So if there's anything there, Stacey will get it all.
Yeah, well, whatever it is, it's not going to go very far nowadays.
Everything is getting pricey. We talked about that threat of inflation for years, but we're still jolted when it actually happens. Even the humble lettuce is now getting out of reach.
Some people have a hack for that.
I saw. The RBA has jacked official interest rates up 0.5 percentage points to 0.85. Who can do maths at 0.85%?
Well, now we all have to wait and see what the banks will do.
You know what they'll do? They'll pass on the full amount. Don't worry about that. Have you noticed that when rates are cut, it takes the banks an awfully long time to lower variable rates, and it's rarely by the full amount. They sit there arguing they only get 20% of their funding from the Reserve Bank, so official interest rate movements don't reflect the full funding picture. But when the RBA raises rate, bam, we're all paying more on the mortgage.
Yep. Is it going to work?
Will higher interest rates rein in inflation?
Yeah.
Not as much as usual. Usually inflation accelerates because consumers are spending too much and supply can't keep up. The economy is overheating, as they say. It happened in the 1980s.
That's hot.
More on the mortgage means less in the shops, so the supply-demand equation equalises. In 2022, now, prices aren't going up just because you and I are spending too much. They're going up because the price of oil spiked when Putin invaded Ukraine and the world stopped buying from Russia, and Russia produces 8 to 10% of the world's energy. Prices are up because Ukraine used to be a massive exporter of grain, and grain is the foundation of our food system. It's not just us eating it.
Whole grain makes the difference.
A lot of farm animals do as well.
Oink. Oh my God.
And prices are up because of bottlenecks in the international supply chain, because a lot of workers are sick with COVID or isolating because of it.
We've been there.
Yeah. These are huge tectonic causes of inflation. You not going out for dinner as often because the home loan is more expensive isn't going to change that.
And bring us the finest food you got, stuffed with the second finest.
I'm Ben Harvey. For more Up Late, click the subscribe button below.